Jason here from Fix My Books, and we're talking Canada exit taxes and an interesting one, very specific. What happens to my RESP if I leave Canada? So the RESP is the Registered Educational Savings Plan, and this is opened by a subscriber, usually a parent, for a beneficiary, which is a child. And you can keep the RSP if you become a non-resident, and you can continue benefiting from the tax-deferred growth in the RSP in Canada, even if you're no longer a resident of Canada. So but the big problem with this is your new country of residence, so for example the US or New Zealand or whatever, they may not recognize the status of the RSP as with its tax advantages in the same way as Canada does. So you may have a lot of reporting that revolves around this because it's a trust, and you may have to pay taxes on any RSP growth that happens throughout the year. And when it comes to the contributions and government grants, if the child, so the beneficiary, remains a Canadian resident, you are still able to contribute and receive the government grants, the CESG and CLB. However, if the child moves with you, the beneficiary moves with you, and they also become a non-resident, i.e. not a resident of Canada anymore, you can't collect new grants, and any existing grants are going to stay in the plan, and they may be forfeited later if withdrawals occur while the child's a non-resident. Just to touch on the withdrawals and taxes. Withdrawals for a resident beneficiary, so someone, a child that is still a resident of Canada, the funds are taxable to the student with obviously very minimal tax rates, but contributions are always return tax free. But if the child becomes a non-resident beneficiary, Canadian grants must be repaid to the government. So all the money that you've accumulated in these Canadian grants, you're going to have to give it back, and any earnings are then subject to a 25% withholding tax. So make sure that you tell the RSP provider, like could be Questrade or some other type of broker, that you're becoming a non-resident, because you don't want to have to file a tax return. You may just have the withholding tax taken out, but you may want to claim treaty benefits as well, so you can reduce this to like even 15% tax rates if you're in certain countries. So the subscriber withdraws, so the parent decides to withdraw. If the beneficiary is not using the RESP and you just want to withdraw the earnings that you put in, you're typically going to have to be a Canadian resident to do this without losing the funds and having taxes and penalties and that sort of thing. So you may want to consider using the RESP only when your child is a Canadian resident, and to keep grants and to minimize the taxes that way. And always be sure when you're dealing with these sort of trust accounts, retirement accounts, that you speak to a professional, especially with respect to like whatever country you're going to move to, because whilst you may think, oh, there's no tax consequences in Canada or very minimal tax consequences in Canada, the country that you're moving to may have very large tax consequences. So RRSPs usually a big one because they're usually a big account, and people move to the United States, and whilst on a federal level they're usually exempt from any income taxes, if you move to a certain state they may not be exempt, and you may need to be paying taxes on them. So these are things that you want to be aware of and plan ahead for. So if this is something that you're interested in, feel free to contact us at Fix My Books. My name is Jason, and if this video was helpful, please like, share, and subscribe, and send it to anyone that may be interested in RESP. Thank you.